The first lie was so small I almost respected it. My wife, Claire, told me she had started taking longer lunch breaks on Wednesdays because the CAF near her office had the only decent tomato soup in the city. She said it with a smile, like it was a harmless little ritual she deserved after dealing with clients all morning. I even teased her about it once, said I hoped this mythical soup was worth the traffic. She laughed. That laugh bothers me now. Not because it was fake. Because it sounded completely natural. That's the unsettling thing about long lies. They don't always begin with panic or awkwardness. Sometimes they begin polished. Casual. Already practiced. By the time you hear them, they've been rehearsed enough to sound like truth. Claire and I had been married 9 years. No major scandals. No dramatic separations. No explosive fights that friends quietly follow up on later. We had what people like to call a solid marriage: routines, responsibilities, private annoyances, occasional tenderness. We owned a house that needed more repairs than we could afford and hosted family holidays because everyone else's homes were smaller or less functional. From the outside, we looked stable. I think stable marriages are the easiest ones to betray. Not because they deserve it. Because predictability creates blind spots. I first noticed the Wednesdays because of our dog. Every Wednesday for about 6 weeks, Baxter would be desperate to go outside the second Claire got home, as if he'd been waiting too long. I work remotely, so on paper that made no sense. I was home with him all day. But then I realized Claire had started taking him for a quick lunchtime walk on the days she worked near the office downtown. She said it helped clear her head. Again, harmless. Even thoughtful. Except Baxter hated car rides. He would hide when he heard keys. Tremble on the back seat. Pant so hard you'd think he was being driven to judgment. And yet every Wednesday, around noon, Claire insisted on taking him with her. When I pointed that out, she shrugged. He's getting used to it. He wasn't. The second lie was stranger. One Wednesday, she came home with a children's juice box in her tote bag. Not groceries. Not a random snack from a meeting. A bright little apple juice box with cartoon monkeys on it. We don't have kids. I held it up and smiled. Planning something? She barely looked over. Oh, that was from the office kitchen. Her office did not have an office kitchen. It rented 2 rooms above a law firm. I knew that, and she knew I knew that, which should have made the lie impossible. Instead, she just kept unloading her bag like confidence itself was a form of proof. After that, I started paying attention in a way that marriage should never require. The mileage on her car. The timing of her lunch breaks. The receipts she forgot to throw away. The way she changed clothes before leaving on Wednesdays even though she claimed she was only grabbing soup and walking the dog. Then came the photo. It showed up by accident. Claire had synced her phone to our shared laptop years ago for convenience, mostly to move pictures over without thinking about it. She must have forgotten the setting was still on. One Thursday night, while I was trying to find an invoice in the downloads folder, I saw a new image thumbnail. Claire was sitting on a park bench. Baxter was beside her. And next to Baxter was a little girl, maybe 4 years old, smiling into the camera while holding his leash with both hands. The photo itself might not have meant much if it ended there. It didn't. Because behind Claire, slightly out of focus but still recognizable, was a man with his hand resting on the back of the bench. Not touching her exactly. Just close enough to suggest he belonged in the frame even though he wasn't centered in it. I stared at that image until my eyes started filling in stories faster than my brain could stop them. Maybe it was a client. Maybe a relative. Maybe a stranger in the park. But I already knew it wasn't random. The dog. The juice box. The Wednesdays. I clicked through the synced folder and found 3 more photos from the same day. In one, the little girl was laughing while Claire fixed her ponytail. In another, Baxter had his head in Claire's lap while the man stood nearby with a stroller. In the last one, Claire was pushing the stroller. I had to sit down. I wish I could say the betrayal felt immediate and clear, but it didn't. It came in layers. First confusion. Then jealousy. Then that ugly, crawling dread that maybe your life has been running alongside another version of itself and everyone but you got the map. I confronted her that night. Not smartly. Not strategically. I just turned the laptop around at the kitchen table and asked, "Who are they?" Claire went white so fast it frightened me. There was no pause for invention. No indignation. No "what are you talking about?" Just instant collapse. She sat down across from me and covered her mouth with one hand. For a second I honestly thought she might faint. Instead she said the one thing I had not remotely prepared for. "That's my daughter." Everything after that felt like listening underwater. My first reaction was almost stupidly literal. That's impossible. Claire was 36. We had been together 11 years, married for 9. Unless she had been living a secret life before we met, which even then sounded insane, the timeline made no sense. But the timeline, it turned out, was exactly the point. The little girl wasn't biologically hers. She was legally hers. 3 years earlier, Claire had reconnected with a man she had dated briefly in college, Daniel. Back then he had gotten another woman pregnant, stayed with her, and disappeared from Claire's life. Years later, after the child's mother died from an aneurysm, he reached out to Claire just to talk. That's what she said. Just to talk. I almost laughed at the phrase. It has probably launched half the disasters in modern marriage. According to Claire, it started as sympathy. Daniel was overwhelmed, raising a toddler mostly alone, grieving, unraveling. Claire said she met him for coffee because she felt sorry for him. Then she met the little girl, Ava. Then she kept meeting them. Then Ava got attached. Then Daniel started relying on her. Then the pandemic hit, routines blurred, boundaries softened, and somehow what should have remained a sad reconnection became an entire second life. I asked the obvious question. "Were you sleeping with him?" She closed her eyes. Yes. There it was. Simple. Brutal. Strangely smaller than what came next. Because sex, I understood. Affairs are disgusting, but they're legible. This wasn't just sex. This was infrastructure. She had known this child for 3 years. She had signed school pickup forms as an emergency guardian. She had attended pediatric appointments. She had bought clothes, toys, medicine. She had been called when Ava had nightmares. And 6 months before I found the photos, she had done something so insane my brain still resists the sentence. She legally became the child's co-guardian. Not without my knowledge in the moral sense. Without my knowledge in the literal, administrative, documented sense. There are details of how that happened that still make me sick. Daniel had health issues. There had been a hospital stay. Social services wanted more stability in place if something happened to him. Claire, already deeply embedded in their lives, agreed. She signed papers. She used a rented P.O. box for mail connected to that arrangement. She paid some expenses from a separate account I didn't know existed, funded mostly through freelance design work she told me she quit years earlier. When people say someone led a double life, you picture glamour or danger. Not pediatric forms and juice boxes. Not a woman coming home to her husband after helping another child memorize the alphabet. That domestic detail is what made it monstrous. I asked her if she loved him. She cried and said, "I don't know." That answer enraged me more than if she'd said yes. Because I don't know is what cowards say when they've benefited too long from ambiguity. I asked if she planned to leave me. She said no. Then, after a pause that told me too much, she said, I didn't know how. There's something particularly humiliating about being treated as a logistical problem in your own marriage. I didn't scream. I should have, maybe. Instead I entered that cold, focused state people mistake for calm when they've been shocked past expression. I asked for every detail. How long had the affair been physical? 2 years. How often did she see them? Every Wednesday, some Saturdays when I thought she was visiting her sister, and occasionally after work. Did anyone know? Her sister knew something. Not everything. Daniel's neighbors assumed she was Ava's stepmother. Did Ava call her mom? Claire started crying too hard to answer, which was answer enough. I slept in the guest room that night. The next morning, I woke up to a sound I didn't recognize right away. Claire laughing softly on the back patio. For one disorienting second I thought life had reset itself and this was some ordinary morning before disaster. Then I looked out the window. She was on a video call. Smiling. Waving. Using that voice adults use with children. I didn't need to see the screen. That was the moment something final happened inside me. Not because it proved anything new. Because it showed me the scale. My marriage had not interrupted her other life. It had merely inconvenienced it. I filed for divorce 3 weeks later. People always want the ending to deliver neat justice, but real life is stingier than that. Claire moved out. She is, as far as I know, still involved with Daniel and still helping raise Ava. Some mutual friends are scandalized. Some are strangely sympathetic, as if the presence of a child turns betrayal into tragedy instead of choice. Maybe for them it does. For me, it remains this. My wife did not just cheat on me. She built a family beside mine and let me continue living in the empty space where truth should have been. And sometimes the detail that haunts me most isn't the sex, or the lies, or even the legal papers. It's Baxter. My dog knew where they were going every Wednesday. He just couldn't tell me.